Hello there everyone and welcome to PS4, and Mike checks out Telltale Games' epic The Wolf Among Us. This is again from Telltale Games, like I said, and it's based on a Bill Willingham's Fable series of comics which were released by DC. The basic premise of it is that all the fairy story characters of old, Bluebeard, Sleeping Beauty, Grendel, the Wind in the Willows gang, all of these guys have been kicked out of their fairy tale homes and now live in pretty much squalor in New York. If you're a human-looking fable, you can live in New York. If you are not a human-looking fable, like a wolf or a pig, you have to pay for a glamour, which is a spell to be able to pass as human. And if you can't pass as human or can't afford the glamour, then you have to live in a place called the farm. I haven't got to that part of the story yet, but I'm assuming that's not a nice place to be from what people have said about it. Within the story, we have Bigby. He is the big bad wolf. This handsome fella standing right in front of you there. Big bad wolf of Red Riding Hood and the Three Little Pigs. He has turned over a new leaf now. He is not a big bad wolf anymore. He is the sheriff of Fable Town, where all the fables live, and it's his job to make sure that the fables go about their business without alerting the mundies, the mundanes, which is us humans, to their presence. He's not very well liked, obviously. Well, there you go. Probably why he doesn't have much of a way with people. He's not very well liked. He's trying to turn over a new leaf. But as with all of Telltale's games, and obviously Telltale Games have done the Walking Dead series, Game of Thrones series, Tales from the Borderlands. These are highly story-driven games where you make decisions and you have consequences, and you can choose to be a nice person or a horrible person. I'm playing through this to try and be a nice big bad wolf. So I'm doing the good stuff, because I quite fancy Snow White, it appears, and the nicer I am, the more Snow White likes me. So I'm trying to kind of I don't think we're going to have any Dragon Age Inquisition kind of bits and pieces in it where you can flirt with them and eventually do all sorts of naughty stuff, but I want her to like me. So I'm trying to be a good big bad wolf. However, you can choose to be horrible. The dialogue options that are available, usually there are 4 options available. There's a direct one, there's a horrible one, there's a nice one, and there's silence generally, and you can choose how you want to interact with people. And every conversation you have will change the way the character you're talking to and people listening to you see things and see you. So there are little changes. So if you're nice to someone all the time, it's possible later on they give you more information that might help you. If you have lied to a character or you've been unkind to them, it's possible further down the line they will not trust you, they either won't help you or might actually be aggressive towards you. So you've got these little ones that subtly change the relationships that you've got. Also, you've got big decisions, binary decisions, where you can do one thing or another, and that will drastically alter the way the game works. At the very beginning of the game, probably about 40 minutes in, you have 2 choices. You can either go and see someone who has phoned you to say there's someone in their apartment, or you can go and speak to the husband of someone who might have been the victim of a murder. You've got to choose which of those 2 people you go to see first. And which one you choose to go first has a big impact on the game, because one of those decisions saves a life and the other costs a life. If you save the life, the direction of the game is entirely different, I would imagine. If you lose the life, which is unfortunately what I did, then that person is no longer there to give you any impact. So there is lots of these decisions which will take the game off into a totally different direction, along with the subtle differences all the way through of how you interact and what you tell and don't tell people. So it means that you're crafting very much your own story in a very real way. I think everyone will have a very slightly different, if not incredibly different experience of this game, which I haven't really seen so far outside of Heavy Rain. I haven't played the other Telltale games, I must say. This is the first one I've looked at. But Heavy Rain I liked because your decisions, your consequences of your actions had a massive impact. And this is very much prevalent within this game. Now, that has got to be backed up with excellent voice acting, good plotting, and a great script. So, has it got those things? Well, this is Telltale we're talking about. That's what they do. Yeah, this has superb voice acting. I haven't come across duff voice acting at all yet. Although it is a slightly absurd scenario, your fable tale, fairy tale characters, they're done with some depth, some weight, so you're not feeling at all that you're, that you're in panto. So they're given a very grungy, very realistic, very down-to-earth feel. These are guys who have come from a lovely idyllic land into having to survive day to day in New York. It's not pleasant. They're not enjoying it. You know, they're trying to do one of the characters becomes a stripper. You know, the Little Mermaid is a stripper. The character who was murdered at the beginning of the game was actually a fairy tale I'd never heard of, but she'd become a prostitute. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are now enforcers for a shadowy crime boss. So these guys are just trying to make their way in a world that is not very welcoming to them and one that they don't really understand. And that's really quite nicely done. Poor old Bigby here is trying to be the good man, but every so often you can see him getting a bit wolfy. You know, if he gets too cross, he can choose to be human. He doesn't need magic to do it, but if he gets too cross, he turns into a big wolfy person. We haven't seen massive evidence of that. We saw a kind of a slight tease of it earlier on, but he certainly gets very nasty and very strong when he does. So consequences, consequences, consequences. Absolutely brilliant voice acting. The script is excellent, can't fault it so far. And as far as pacing is concerned, great. The one thing where it does fall down a little bit, and it's not a game breaker because it's not a big part of the game, is in the action sequences. These games were originally designed for PC. And you can see that when you get into the action sequences, which are very much QTEs, quick time events, that they are designed for mouse and keyboard. And for mouse and keyboard, I imagine they'd be quite simple. With a controller, although it's not game breaking, it becomes a little bit awkward. Using the thumbsticks and the shoulder buttons, you know, mashing buttons, it doesn't quite gel. It works, but only just. But the fact is that these action sequences are very few and far between. They don't happen very often at all. So it's not a big deal. We're not talking about game-breaking stuff here. I love it, actually. It's very, very good. One of the best mechanics, actually, is at the end of each episode, and there are 5 episodes, and from what I can figure, I've played through the first 1.5 of the episodes. They're going to be about an hour and a half long per episode, depending on what you do. You can blitz through it and just, you know, press any old choice, or you can think. I've been thinking my way through it and choosing carefully what I say and do, and searching crime scenes thoroughly. It's extended the gameplay for a little bit for me. But at the end of each episode, the big decisions that you make, there is a statistical thing that says, well, how many people made the same decision? So that one I talked about earlier on, where I chose the path that actually led to someone dying. Well, 59% of other players chose the same thing I did. So, you know, it's quite nice. You get a sense of community if you do then go and replay it. And there's a huge amount of replay value in this game. Then you can try different things. You can, you know, it's just so clever in that respect. It gives you so much choice and a real feeling that those choices count, which a lot of similar games have lacked recently. You know, Beyond Two Souls, for instance, I was so looking forward to that. Massively disappointing because actually it turned out to be a very linear experience, and your decisions and the things that happened in each of the chapters had very little effect further down the line. This does. Your choices will matter. The things that you do will come back to either help you or haunt you further down the line. And it could be something you did in episode 1 that bites you on the bum 6 or 7 hours later in episode 5. And this is the dynamic I like about this. You can play it any way you like, but you're never going to make the right decision every single time. You're always going to tick someone off. It's brilliant. So it's got massive replay value. It looks gorgeous. It's got a lovely art style, which is very familiar for people who've ever seen any Telltale games anyway. And it's just beautifully done. I'm looking forward to working my way all the way through this game. If the plotting and the story remain as solid as it has been for the first 2 hours that I've been playing it, I'm so looking forward to seeing what happens, what Bigby does. And I do hope that there is a follow-up to it, because these are interesting characters that have been very well done and very well developed. So, if you're someone who's looking for a massive action fest, you know, if you want to blow things up and punch the living daylights out of things, not the game for you. If you want something that is considered, well-paced, intelligent, well-scripted, good story, but takes its time, this is the perfect game for you. This is not a game for action junkies. This is a game for people who want to kind of invest in characters and think a little bit about how they want to play the game, because you play the game doesn't play you. And that's the lovely thing about this genre of games. They allow you to create your own game rather than forcing you down one way or another. So, for my money, it's a good purchase at 10 quid on PlayStation Network. I think that's a great buy for me. So, I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, like, favourite and subscribe. Do all of the sociables. And as always, happy gaming, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye for now.